only a little bit. Only a small amount of time has passed since 7. Fine. But yeah. Yeah. Look at us go. Look at us go. 3 mil ones. I don't trust that. It doesn't properly. There there is um a little thing in OBS where you, because the stats which is directly from OBS, it's OBS is um the stats and that stuff, like how much CPU it's using, all that good shit. But then there's a Twitch stats which is like, oh, how long you've been live for and all that good shit. But it's just it's only now fucked over to, oh, that might be 1 minute. Oh, that might be what that. Okay, maybe I'm just an idiot then. Maybe I'm just a little dumb. Hmm. Hmm. Have we ever thought of that? I mean, probably it's not the hardest thing to assume. Hello. It's been a minute since I've seen you, Virus. How are you doing? How has your time been existing? Good, you? It's been pretty good. God, school was a pain today. I don't know why. It was just like 7 years longer than it normally was. I, I don't know why sometimes hours feel like millennia, but they did today, and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't. Nothing's broken today, which is nice. I'm gonna be doing some Minecraft because I'm back in the Minecraft mindset. Isn't that delightful? Okay. No, yeah. Um, Somebody tried to scam me earlier. You were like, "Oh, you've won a CS:GO skin." I don't play CS:GO. I don't. What? Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I don't care. It's just kind of like confusing. But yeah, we're doing Minecraft. I've done some vague like, yeah, it then leads to a Twitch link. Sorry, it's just genuinely baffling to me. I haven't opened it yet. I kind of want. Okay, this is what we're doing right now. I'm opening this. Which what? Okay. Oh, it's not even Twitch. It's Twitch. It's Twitch. Anyway, yes, I've done some kind of just general um like little updates, which two of them are for Minecraft. One of them is um I've I've put the resolution down slightly so that maybe it doesn't break as much. Okay, no, that's just not working. Okay. I was like, oh, maybe it's the minutes. No, it's just wrong. It's just so incredibly inaccurate. This is painful. We're getting rid of getting rid of that. But yes. Anyway, Minecraft. But yeah, for for Minecraft, I've done a couple of things. I put so much effort into this. You would not understand. I put like 40 minutes into downloading some Minecraft mod. It that some may say that that is too much time to spend on like 5 honestly not that good mods, one of which I already had anyway. But I would disagree because I was the one that spent the 40 minutes on it. and I don't want to feel like I've just wasted 40 minutes. Yeah. But yeah, so there is, I don't exactly know why, but I've got the replay mod now. It's there. I'll probably use it. Who knows? Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. I don't know how well that's gonna go either. I have a texture pack to differentiate between the enchanted books because those are horrific. I hate enchanted books. Why do they all look the same? Guess what? I've fixed it. Give it about an hour to start up. I should have started up craft earlier. Sorry, this was an oversight on my part. Style of life? Oh, there's Minecraft. In case you couldn't see. In case you couldn't see it. But here. If any of the audio levels are bad, tell me and I'll change them. Yeah, just mention it. But yeah, this is so I can still use Optifine with Fabric. That is why I downloaded Fabric. That is this. And that's Minecraft. Yes, I did copy over my world save. Yes, it is still there. I made sure that everything was working beforehand. Yesterday. I made sure everything was working yesterday. That's when that happened. It should still be working. I hope, but it might not be. Who knows? Not me. That's for certain. That is for certain. You know, because whoever really knows. Not me. Boom. Okay. We're 3 seconds in and nothing's broken. This is quite impressive. This is what we're working on. This is the hellhole we are working on. I think it's gonna be fun. Then there's the question of interloop. What the? Okay. I don't actually know how replay mod works. That is the issue, isn't it? Um. How? What does quick mode mean? Ah, fuck. Fuck it. We're recording indicate what? Okay. Oh fucking! I'm a dumbass. I am. I'm just a little stupid. It's fine. This is a-okay. This is all fine. Yup. Definitely. I am intelligent. I am the embodiment of intelligence. This is for I can read, and that is an accomplishment in and of itself. Because not many people can read. Definitely. I'm not lying. I would never lie. Why would I lie? I wouldn't. That's why. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Oh, hello. Hello there. Fuck off. Oh, you are still coming. Oh, why are you coming? I didn't want this in life. What has happened? Oh, you two. You bitch! Why are you also still coming? What is this? I don't want this. Bullshit. Oh my god! It's everywhere! What is this? This is. Oh my. Piss off, you bastard. This is so stressful. Okay, and now I'm on fire. Uh-huh. Nice. Oh, I do have food on me. Isn't that sweet? Oh my Jesus. Bullshit. That's a problem for me when I get over there. I say, at the very least. Okay, okay. I panicked and then because I thought I was dying and then I almost died because I panicked. Nice. I was gonna ask how it's going, but I think I got the answer. What could tell you the answer to your question? I wonder, Rose. I wonder where you could get that idea. Oh my god! Stop it! Stop it, Plakia! What is this? It's not even in like one concise pool. It's just everywhere. Ah. Go away. Leave me alone. I do not like you. You are not my friend. Oh, you piece of shite, you. Oh, you piece of shite. Oh, you. I'm scared. I don't like it here. Pursue a girl. I don't like this. Oh, it's grand. Yep. Mm-hmm. We dig down. What's the worst that can happen? If we dig down, nothing bad can happen downwards, surely. Oh, you fucking bitch. This is fine. It's 4 deep. It's 4 deep. Now, where's my bucket? My bucket of buckets. I need my... I don't know why I expected it to be any different, honestly. Okay, we're gonna go up here. Okay, we're getting there. Wait. Why is it always why does lava have to spawn, you know? Why? It's oh, we could do a lava fall. That would be so fucking cool. God, it's not even that, like, impressive. It's just annoying. It's just long. It's just a long, boy. A bitch. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Let me put down my buckade. Yeah, fuck you. Ah, I'm distraught. I didn't want to have to do this with my day. This isn't what I wanted. What is this? I want the comfort of not knowing what any of the words mean again. Ooh. I need the comfort of naivety. There we go. Naivete. God, my English teacher expects people to do reading while they're in Madrid. Like, what does she... She's not, like, all that threatening. She's just there and I just phase through Obsidian. Look at me go, I am so cool. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, surely people will do the reading. No, they fucking won't. You're asking them to read 12 chapters. People didn't read the 2 chapters you told us to read over fucking the weekend. It was a chapter a day. You expect them to read 12 chapters in 5. My god, what do you take yourself for? Oh, that's kind of threatening. Not even that, just fucking there. Right there. Actually, wait, yeah, what if we... I would like my buckade of buckades. Oh, yeah, I would like to say, Rose, you know how, Piff says hydrangea? Yeah, I found out that's very much an American thing. So I have mocked them for it. We don't have enough space. Oh my god, how deep do you go? Fucking hell. Okay, I guess I'll just yoink the rest of you as obsidian. Can't do much else, be completely honest with ourselves. Wasn't completely aware that they said it like that, but mockery, exactly. Yeah, I just, like, accents happen sometimes, and some of us say words weird, but not many of us are that insistent upon it. Okay. Guys, do you think I have enough buckets? God, I'm not sure if I'm bothered enough. Let's face it, guys. I'm not sure I'm fucking bothered. No. Oh, you piece of shit. Oh. I am so sorry for anything that that did to anybody's eyes. That was horrific. And this is just what we do for the next, like, what, 10 minutes? Because this is what Obsidian demands. It's what it craves. The soul of anybody nearby. They don't have to be innocent. What if we leave it here? Then we just, like, bring the bucket of water with us. Oh, you're still fucking here? Leave me be, you piece of shit. Okay, hi. Yeah, that's just how we're gonna function from now on. If you're lava, you're shit. Just know, fuck you. Okay, I feel we should swap between the lava and between the water and the and the blocks. Because the blocks work for the ones that are like that, and in the ceiling for some reason. I need more torches. Because otherwise, this is gonna be a shit experience for you. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's nice. Love to see that, don't you just? I've gotten ever so slightly better at flying through that. Only the slightest amount, though. Nothing more than the very least. Um. Do we have any wood? Yeah, we do. We have torches as well. We have a lot of torches. Hell yeah. This is why leaving shit here is for the best. Because they'll just never run out. I'm gonna pop not everything, not those, but like that in there. And my 9 extra buckets. Okay. I think we'll walk the rest of the way. What about you? I think we walk. Yeah. Yeah, I think we walk. Yup. Yeah. Yeah, I think walking's safe. I think walking's good and walking's safe, and it's not wronged me yet. As of right now, walking is perfectly grand. Okay, fuck off, you bastard. Get to you in a minute. We'll get there in a second. God. Grandpa's going on about him. He's a war hero again. He never shuts up about it. Oh my! Stop it! Okay, this is getting excessive now. This is, I'm up to here with it. I'm up to here with it. This is bullshit. I don't appreciate the attitude. I come here, I make you so cool looking, I guess. And this is how you repay me. Oh! Ignore that noise. Just ignore it. It's fine. That's normal. I'd be more concerned if that was normal now, to be fair. To be fair. I have a feeling that noise is slightly more what the fuck when it's the norm. Just move on with yourselves. We've not the time for this shite. You hear me? We've not the time. Hey. Oh, please don't tell me there's more fucking lava over here. I can't handle it. I'll start crying. I'll just fall to the floor, sobbing. Boom. And now you can see, probably. Hopefully. Can't really promise anything. But hey, I can say it anyway. Isn't that sweet? This is, we're just gonna be mining for the next like hour and a half, at the very least. We might be doing a couple small other things in between. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That's what's on the okay, you piece of shit, hear me right now. Yeah, you made me get rid of my fucking water. I'm fucked now because of you. Yeah, piss off. Okay, how do we tackle that now? Boom, 1. Boom, 2. Boom, 3. Look at me go, I'm a professional. Look at me go, I'm not quite a professional. You just burned my bloody torch. Of fucking course you did. Ah yeah, I'm lava, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Yeah, I don't care. Couldn't give a shit. Oh, now you're over there as well, are you? Fuck you. Now we go down vaguely. Saunter vaguely downwards. As one does. But yeah, we'll get rid of the ore at some point. I don't know when, but it'll happen. Fucking go. Hey. Who doesn't enjoy a nice saunter? I mean, really, it's... I don't actually know what sauntering looks like. Like, what would somebody look like if they were to saunter? It's just a kind of... You never really ascribe that to somebody. You're like, oh yeah, some people saunter, but you never really choose somebody that saunters, do you? Not really. Oh, my phone's about to die. Thank you for being here. I hope the rest of your day is good. And I hope your phone doesn't completely die. That always sucks. But yes, thank you for being here for a bit. Is appreciated. Now you get out of the contemplative the contemplative saunter talk. Oh, you lucky motherfucker. This is gonna... God, is this even worth it? It's one of those moments where it's like, huh, this is gonna take a long fucking time. This is... Ooh, is this gonna take a long... I would be like, oh yeah, we could just go get a beacon. We can't. I haven't killed a wither. That's not something I've done. So that's... You're stuck here with me for the next... while. We'll go with while. We'll say while and be kind about it. Okay, hello. Thanks for the water, I guess. I suppose. Oh, we're gonna have so much copper. We already have so much copper. We don't need any more copper. We have... let's face it, we have an excessive amount of copper already. It's unnecessary to have more copper. I feel like it might even be a hindrance to have more copper. Maybe. I'm building with copper in survival. It goes very, very fast. I don't tend to build with copper, though. Like, yeah, it's very much like, oh, you have a lot of it, and then suddenly you have none of it. If you couldn't tell, I'm more of an excavator. I feel like I should have stayed at the top. How's your day going, though, Iris? Okay. Oh, we shouldn't have dug out the death pit. Oh, the death pit has claimed my soul again. This is fine. Yep. This is going pretty well, hell yeah. I'm glad. Let's just make another cart. Yep. I feel like we should send the carts back after this. They might not make it. No, they'll have a llama at the end. They'll probably make it the whole way back. This is why I built the car. It's like, oh, you have an elytra. You don't need the railway. Yes, I do. I die too often to not make use of the railway. It's actually an issue. But yes, your buildings were very cool yesterday. I enjoyed the vibes. I don't know why I put a detector rail. Not a detector rail, but you know, I don't know why I haven't gotten rid of extra stopping by. Not a problem. You stopped by for mine. I felt like I should return the favor. And yeah, it's very vibey. As opposed to my 1 minute screaming, the next minute falling asleep. Oh, I could have showed off the enchanted books. It's fine. But yeah, yeah, that's the backup of. Go on. Go on, you know you can. Okay, what if... No, go that way. Go that way. There you go. And that one's gonna go... Piece of shit. It's fine. It's grand. They're all just here now. They're just here now. But yeah, yous may be proud of me. I've got something other than coffee. I do still have coffee, I've just also got juice. I've got apple juice. Look at me, being mildly healthy. I feel like these stairs now have to be more impressive. These stairs now have to get upgraded. You know, it's just a thing that has to happen. It does. It has to happen. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't jump down those, dumbass. This side, it better have been this side, otherwise we're fucked. Yeah, the pit's a little hard to see in, I will not lie. I feel like this would be a lot less dangerous if I had better armor, but I don't. Oh, we almost just ended up dead in the other side of the pit. Not deep enough yet, though. You have to not be able... the bottom of it has to be unloaded. Okay. Nice. Nice. I'm smart. This is fine. Yep. Totally A-okay. Totally grand. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. There's never been a problem here. Okay, listen here, you piece of shite, you. Yeah, fuck you. I win. I feel like it's too dark up here. I'm now skeptical of every block. Yeah, this bit does not have to be as neat in any manner because who's gonna be paying that much attention to the fucking ceiling? I mean, we're 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 at least 20, maybe 30 blocks up from where the bridge is gonna be. Who's gonna be going from down there and be like, oh, that's a single block that's not looking quite as good as the ones around it. We we must leave a 2-star review. Like that is not gonna happen. Also, I'm gonna be the only one here, so that is also something to take into account. Okay, well, looky here. Look who looks like an idiot now. It's me. Why? Oh my god, because it's fucking redstone? Because it's redstone. You're not streaming HD anyway. I'm aware, okay? My laptop would die, Iris. I am. I have the replay mod though. That's fun. I don't know what I'll do with it, but it's there, and it took me half an hour. So we're using it. I don't know how it works though, so that it's gonna be a little awkward when nothing works. When nothing turns out proper. Yeah, you can do some fun stuff with that. I know. I just don't know. I know that fun stuff can be done. I just don't know what fun stuff. Oh shit, my guy. This is fine. Oh, listen here, you pompous piece of shite, you. No! My water. I shall never recover from this heinous act. Hey, there we go. Yeah, the things with replay mod always looked so fun, and I thought, hey, if I ever do make a YouTube video, I feel like this would be the one to start on. Not really, because you've already got the whole bit over there. Though I do have all the files with. No, this is kind of horrible of me. Back when um, like not recently, but back when my fucking when my blender was working and I'd started downloading the VODs, I probably of September last year, September year the year before. The year before. But I went through the VODs and I figured out which ones were to do with this. Because I felt like this was the first big thing that I did, right? So if I was gonna make a video, it would be on this. And I never did. And now it's been a year and a half. Maybe I'll do that for my 2 year. It's almost my 2 year. That is terrifying. We didn't empty the. It's fine. But yeah, it's almost. We still don't have a shovel. That's why the gravel's still there. But yeah. It is almost my 2 year. Isn't that fun? Isn't it just delightful? So fun and quirky. We're gonna put the sword back there. Yeah, it's just like, damn, that's a long time. That is a long, long time. Oh, something broke. Give me a second. I hate this. It's only 50 minutes and something fucking. That's scaffolding. Let's not use scaffolding. How about to But yeah, so I'm not recording it in HD and nobody else can either. That's basically the point that I was getting to. Yeah? Sorry for shouting directly into you. I'll be back in a second. I have to go do something family related. It'll be like at most 5 minutes. I'll leave you with some music. But I shit will be right back. turn. Didn't run up the stairs this time. I did walk up them very briskly though. But yes, I'm back. Hi. Yes, those are words that I can use because my mouth works. Not killed anybody. Okay, anyway, alas, Minecraft. There we go. That was the thing. No, not really. No, it wasn't very important, but it was there. Okay, boom. That's that one small section done. I mean, face it, we've not even really finished the entrance to this cave. I don't know how wide I want it to be or how tall I want it. I want it to be kind of threatening. Not threatening. The word ain't imposing. That was the one. Imposing. Good word. I think I got that bit from my parents. I'll be like, ooh, that's a good word. Because they use it. They do that. So I'm blaming them. My brother today asked me if I wanted, well, as a direct quote, are you any desperate urge for a blahage? And me, being very confused, did not know what a blahage was. In the moment, it looked like some random letters. So I asked him what he meant, because, you know, confused. He then sends me a picture of a shark, gay shark, and that was it. That was the end of that. Oh, we're not even in the middle. Am I going back down? I'm going up. This is what I get for not having a shovel. I feel like maybe we should make a shovel. Yeah, maybe just a shovel is in order. Oh, I didn't know fucking scaffolding had collision. Why does scaffolding have collision? Yes, yes. So I might now be getting gifted a blahage. I'm not saying it right. But it's, yeah. There's a circle on the first A, I think. Yeah. Uh, oh, Fifi, my lovely. Fifi. We love Fifi, this household. Yeah, they're good. I looked it up. I think there's something on one of the other letters as well. Yeah, no, it's just the circle on the A. But yeah, I have no clue how you'd go about pronouncing that. Maybe like large. Well, it's Sweden, yeah. Unfortunately, that doesn't help my pronunciation. I don't think I've ever, like, actually heard somebody Swedish. Which, yeah. Or, like, I probably have, but I probably haven't registered it as Swedish. I probably just went, oh, that's a language I don't know. Also, so you know the way where a lot of things, like every language has like different names for different countries. Why? Why not just use the name the country chose? Like that's the whole like I get that it would be like, oh, it would be like harder for some people to pronounce. But is there any other reason behind it? Or is it just we don't want to? Ew. So much lava. Okay. That's kind of threatening. I say as I run towards it. We'll give it a second. It was a family member's birthday recently, so we're trying to get rid of the cake. That's what I was called then. Once again, sorry for shouting directly into you. Like I think it would have like peaked or like suppressed it, but you can never be too certain about these things. I'll never fully be able to get rid of the Dutch Deutsch. Oh, definitely not. Not in the fucking slightest. Like a slightly less everywhere problem, but there's the fun thing of Gaelic versus uh basically Gaelic and Gaelga, because um Gaelic is the Scottish one, or Gaelic. Yeah. Like ooh. Like why not just use the name that the people in that it that the country is called in the language that is spoken in the country? Why not? Why? Why? I don't get it. Oh, ah, fuck. Angua. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the flags. It's like what the fucking Ivory Coast, Italy, not Italy, maybe Italy, but like France, Ireland, just all of them. It's like, ooh. Okay, maybe one's blue and red, and the other one's green and red, and I remember. But yeah, the Ivory Coast having the same fucking flag is weird. Like, huh? How did multiple people come up with this color combination? How did that happen? Yeah, fuck you. We'll clean that up at some point. Make it so it makes more sense. Do that with everything at some point. But for now, we're gonna have to charge the pickaxes. This is why you make farm. Oh, fuck off. Leave me alone. I don't want to deal with your bullshit. Fuck off. Oh my god. It's never ending. Just like the blue white red combination by the First Republic, which was Dutch. Look at you go. Trendsetters. Ah. I have a friend that might be taking Dutch for their leaving cert. Netherlands is their country. Republics as well. They copied the. So what I'm hearing is some lies were told, and everybody fell for it. Yeah. So, alone. Ah, bitch. I don't know why I keep on running at it and expecting it to not hurt. That's exactly right. Yeah. As it should be. Oh my god. Hey my golly gosh. Fiddlesticks. Doing this again is fun and quirky. Now, if I'm. Oh, fucking course there's more. There's always more. The fucking bastards. Like, oh, oh, we need more. We need. Oh, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And now I'm in a hole. Inside of my hole. That I've made. In a hole. I'm blocked off in a hole. Inside the hole that I made in a hole that I made inside a hole that I found through a cavern that I made. What is this? It's bullshit. Is what? Why did that? It's just I don't understand. Okay, fuck you, bitch. This is the tactic that always works. God, there's more of you? Go away. Yeah, so we'll do that for now. And we'll just work our way through, is what I'm hearing. Fuck you, bitch. I'll continue to curse it out until it stops, alright? I'll continue until it does what I want it to. That might not be happening for quite the while, alright? So, fucking, why is that hole so deep? No. It's off. This is unsurprisingly more complicated than I thought it would be. I didn't screech that time. It's an upgrade, people. Upgrades, people, upgrades. Oh, you're so tall. I hate it. Despicable. Oh, you're the bit from earlier. Okay. Go, I guess. Uptake 2, Electric Boogaloo. Oh, we don't need it. Oh! Well, now I'm down here. Isn't that fun? Isn't that delightful? And now there's a fucking zombie. Up there for that. It this way. We've got to where we wanted to be. Huh? Like, will we come back to it later? Almost certainly. But as of right now, we don't need to go any further to get rid of the lava. Unnecessary at this point. At least that bit of lava. Huh. Oh, the curse of bind. I thought they were curse of. I thought they were a curse of vanishing for a second. Hmm. Sorry, I've been overwhelmed by all of the lava. Don't. How many things have happened? I don't know. Somebody broke their arm the other day, I guess. That's not exactly a funny story, though. That's not funny or fun. Just damn, that's somebody with a broken arm now. Yeah. Just broken. Don't know how they broke it though. That might be a funny story. Pretty sure it was through sport though, so it's probably not. There's a. Ooh. Fucking course you're here. Where else would you be? Have some scaffolding. Not that way. Well, that's a better kinda vague cavern shape, I guess. We really do need to start actually digging downwards though soon. We should probably figure out that corner though first. Okay, nice. Nice. I thought all of you were fucking gone, mate. And yet here you are, ready to wreak havoc on my day yet again. Like a bitch. I don't know why that was there. Okay, now where's the ceiling actually meant to be? Okay, so this is the middle. Good to know, I suppose. No, I wanted you up. Okay, so this doesn't go nearly far enough out. That would be why, actually. That right, the lava problem that we've been having? Yeah, no, that might explain it. That maybe just might explain it. We can leave that bit there as well. Make it look a little more cavey, I guess. I suppose. Okay, listen here, you bastard. Up we go to fix this bitch of an issue. I feel like an exterminator, more so than when I was fighting the Fifi. It just keeps on fucking going. This is the lava pool that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. You didn't have to do that, now, did you? What the? Why is there not a... Hi, sorry. I got distracted. Hello, how are you both doing? What dropped poker? And hello, Cicada, how are you doing? And welcome. There's another one. Thank you, Drot Poker, for the follow. I do appreciate it. it's, that is. I'm glad that my yelling at lava hasn't has entertained you enough to want to stick around. I don't just do Minecraft. If I did, I'd be better at it. Good. Okay. I hate you. I hate this. Oh my! It doesn't end. Would you join a vanilla server? I would consider it, but I also don't know my laptop would run servers very well. Sorry. Ah! Ah! If I don't look at it, it'll go away. If I don't look at it, it'll go away. If I don't, these are so. Came in 3 hours late. My God. Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Love that. Love it. Just checking if we are. Perhaps. Perhaps. I've left his apology. Okay. I know it's there. I know it's there, and yet I fall. Time and time again. Hey, at least it wasn't in the pit. At least it wasn't the... Oh, you can't even see the pit from here, can you? At least it wasn't in the pit. The pit is terrifying. It's claimed my life 5 too many times. That is probably an accurate number, I guess. Like, I'll say it's accurate, but... Okay. Fix that. We were meant to be doing this bit over here anyway. This was the part that we were doing. Oh, but it's just more lava. Just more lava. Why do you do this to me? Made my mistake. Oh, not what I meant to do. Uh, fine. It's fine. Oh, I should... but I also shouldn't take those off. It'll be grand. We'll be perfectly fine. You go, have a little trough to fall into. Okay. It's going great. It's going fantastically. Couldn't be going better. I promise. I promise. The best I've ever done. I was about to be like, oh, what's that? It's the hole that I dug out. It was the lava that I got rid of not 30 minutes ago. So that's what that is. Which is lovely. I picked the worst spot because, like, on either side of this bit, there's no lava. Just this bit. It's just this bit, and I hate it. Disgusting. Okay, I say we start. No, we can't start going down. Mm-hmm. I heard there was a secret chord that David played on a chord who don't really care for me. It goes like this, the 40, 50, manifold, major live, African posing hallelujah. Are you? I am losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. I fucking. I'm fine for the most part. I'm being dramatic as I do to make thing. Okay, listen here, you piece of shit. I'm going to take your firstborn, and you're not going to have a say in it. Yeah, other than that, I'm pretty damn good. What are you doing? Have I already asked? How are you? What? Currently, I have a headache, but devolving into a insanity headache. You know the works. You missed a lapis? I think I missed more than lapis, my guy. There's some diamonds down there. There's some gold. Yeah, that's also in the bit that I'm digging into currently. Well, I say currently, I mean within the next 5 years. They're kind of useless now. Well, say that to my to my diamond and gold armor. Shouldn't start a new save. I mean, maybe, but I'm also enjoying building this thing. Like, if I were to constantly restart new saves, what's the point? Like, the only reason I'm not playing Hardcore World is because I die all the time. Yeah, maybe at some point once I'm like, oh, I have no more ideas. To be fair, probably won't take very long. Maybe then I'll start a new save. Currently, I have this. I've also technically got the modded world going, just not going very fast. There. Flow. Also because I don't know how much the laptop will be able to take. Maybe one day. Not at the moment. Oh my god, did we? Yeah, that would getting rid of the blocks that are causing the lava would help get rid of the lava. But yeah, we're not mining to mine. We're mining to make a thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing that I'm losing my mind over. Slowly but quickly. Slowly but so very quickly. But yeah, we're making an offshoot to where Fifi is. That is what we are currently doing. English now, bye bye. Bye bye. I hope English isn't too shit. Oh, There we go. And you should be able to see without the torches having to be put down, which is nice, it's fun. Yeah, this will just take a couple millennia. Don't worry. I think we're gonna do it like segment by segment. We're gonna do like 5 rows back and then find our way down. God, it's gonna take a long time. Hey, it'll hopefully be worth it. If not, we could... I might have moss that I could use. That might help. Probably would. Definitely would. Would definitely help. I'll do this layer and then I'll go see if I have any moss. Oh, I might not. I feel like I should, but I'm not certain. I have an accounting test tomorrow. Oh, lovely. Love that for me. Absolutely adore that. Couldn't be happier, really. The cash budget is not too bad. It could be worse. It could be a lot worse. That doesn't mean it's great, though. Still accounting. Getting there on this level. We're gonna have to... Yeah, I feel like we should get moss because otherwise we're gonna go through so many pickaxes. Like, we're gonna have to go and get them fixed and then come back and then go get them fixed like 80 times. Sorry if I'm not talking that. I've had a minor headache all day. It's just been a little bit of a bitch. As headaches normally are, you know. As they do. Yeah. Oh, we have this bit to get rid of. Cut my hair yesterday. Well, I say yesterday, I mean at 2 in the morning today. Wasn't very eventful. I just kind of made it shorter again. I do want to re-dye it again soon, though. I do want to re-dye it. Because, like, it's split dyed purple and blue because why not? And the purple is doing fine. Like, it's a little more, ready, but it's fine. But the blue's going a little greyish. I would appreciate it if it didn't do that. Ooh. Okay. We're gonna take probably. Ooh, that was kind of almost vaguely smooth. We're gonna take the minecarts back so that all of the minecarts are back at the house, so that I don't have to keep making minecarts every single time that I die here. Or I could just set my spawn, but you know me, I'm not gonna do that. Oh my god, and now we have something to use all the bones for. The council. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. Yep. Mm-hmm. This isn't gonna take 7 years. No. See, this isn't a problem when it's just me, but it's not just. No, you stay up there, you piece of shit. I don't even know who you are. You're just in my fucking transport. I don't know. Why are you here? Okay. So tell me why I keep on going into E. Like a little train. We should have made a furnace. Furnace minecart to get us through the. Oh my. No! Fucking furnace minecart to get us through this. Jesus Christ. This is gonna take us like 20 minutes. No! Go down! Stop it! Stop going this way! Piece of shit. Okay, we're making the furnace minecart. We're making it. You can't stop me. We don't. That was useless. We don't have any coal. Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at that? It's gotten to the point where I'm breaking my own fucking hallway for this bullshit. Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. How are you back here? Where did the other minecart go? There was a minecart behind you. How did you kill a minecart? Have you absorbed it? The other two. Have you absorbed all of the minecarts? What are you doing? Monster. No, there's only one here. Where did they all go? Get back in there. Where did they go? Where the fuck? What? Wait, did you just eat 3 minecarts? The fuck? I'm I'm not the only one who saw that, right? Wait, That can't have just been me. You ate 3 minecarts. What the fuck? What the fuck, dude? Bullshit. What do you do? Okay, well now I'm in a tree. And now I'm on 1 heart in the air, and I'm probably gonna perish. My guy just ate 3 that can't be healthy. That can't be healthy. Hey! Do you think we've enough bones? You think? We probably don't, to be completely honest. The answer is probably no. I would like to make 2 minecarts. Just 2. One to be a furnace, to be the chug-a-lug-a-lug that just kind of stays on the track, and somewhere, some way, it's disintegrated. The llama has disintegrated, along with. Oh, what the? Where did you come from? How is the llama in the back one? How? How is the. What the fuck? What? What is happening? What the. Okay. Nice. Come to me, baby. Oh, and now I'm. No. Oh my god. Oh, it's the fucking corners, is it? You get stuck inside of each other, you weirdo. Now, how's the llama free? Where's the. How are there. How are there 4 what? How are there 4 empty but. I'm. Oh my brain can't handle it. Oh. Go around the corner. God. The furnace is so slow, yet so Did the llama make it all the fucking way back? Yeah. How did you? Oh. Don't you worry. We'll hit an immovable object soon. Oh, that's how. Oh. Oh, I've unleashed a monster. Oh, I've unleashed a monster upon this world. Oh, the llama's a smug bitch, isn't she? Oh, I saw that. I saw that look in their eyes. He's just fucking sitting there going, I have won. I own the mine gods. That's what the llama sounds like. I would assume there's just a small bit of vocal fry in there from all the spitting, all those sick bars that the llama spits. We need a hoe. We're probably going to need more than one hoe, to be fair. You are my fire. The one desire, believe when I say I want it that way. Hello? Oh, there's nobody in either of the holes. Hell yeah. There is somebody nearby though. Oh, we're never gonna need like mining ever again. We could stay here for millennia and never need to go deep slate mining. Like ever. Oh, we're gonna have so much. Oh, this is great. I now have to do a moss based build. Can't stop me. It needs to happen. I don't really care where it goes. Nice. I want it that way. Oh, this is gonna take a lot of fucking. Oh. A lot of. Um. Oh, how many fucking entities is this gonna be? Oh. This is gonna be disgusting. Oh. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's gone. It's gone. Like that. It's disappeared. Okay. Me on the carpet. Want the carpet. I also want the blossoming azaleas, but we can get those at another point in time. I hate scaffolding collisions sometimes. It's not even like an objectively bad thing, right? It's not like actually a bad thing. It's just annoying sometimes. I'm gonna put that next to there. I am also going to axe of that on me. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna bring it with me. One is a not that. Those three. There are diamonds in there. 4. Now we go and we make a couple of hoes. 3 to be exact. Oh, that's just. I hate the fact that you can do it there. I despise that. We're also gonna pop that in there. Like, I did it like that to check. I didn't expect it to work that we. Now we go back the other way, because I don't have any food on me and I don't want to perish currently. I have some self-preservation. Want my Grapho Diamond or my Grapho Diamond? Here we go. Um. Yeah. Gonna be here for a while. Just a little bit of time, you know. Nothing too long. Not at all. How long have we been here already? Just like in total. How long has it been? A little progress have we made? We remind me to stuff to that side later. If you don't, it's fine. I'll probably look at it and be like, oh wait. Wait a gosh darn second. I'm so sorry for the very jagged frames. we'll put it like that. Go with jagged. Oh my god, there's carpet everywhere. Ooh. I'm not sure if I love or hate the carpet yet. I'm undecided. It's like on one hand it's pretty cool, on the other hand, ooh, it's so hard to see. Oh, we missed a whole chunk. Ooh. Do a really shit test where we're like, okay, how fast is comparison? Very fast in comparison. Can confirm it's speedier to do this than to mine it by hand. Who would have thunk? Remember when I was content to just witter on to just continue to go around with my netherite pickaxe, unbothered by the world, probably very bothered by the world, very bothered by the world all the time. Oh, hello. I'll do it now. I'll do it now. That's not how you bone meal things. You don't throw the bone meal on the ground. That doesn't help. No. What? I think it would be more fun if it didn't just do the ones exposed to air, but I also know I'd get so much more annoyed. What if it just picked at random how many blocks it did, huh? What would happen then? I'm back. I've found out, you know, a while ago, you might not know a while ago. Okay, a while ago I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to have a kind of moss cape? Why? Because B-dubs. I have discovered recently, a while ago, my grandmother, because I'm cold all the time, she gave me this thing that was, I don't really like the texture of it. It like it it gets caught on my fingers in a bad way, and I hate it, right? But on one side it's green, and on the other side it's white, and I have fabric dye, so I was thinking, like, why not? Oh, that makes my job a lot easier. Oh, that doesn't. That doesn't make my job a lot easier. Ugly bastard. But yeah. So like, it wouldn't be a light green. It would be quite a dark green, and the green on one side would probably be darker because it was already green, but it would be cool. Fucking friends, be there one day. Focus on the future, maybe one day. Baby, life's a fucking consistent. What I want to be. Turn back time at least a couple Tuesdays. For I found what life turned to. Said it last time. Not afraid of empty rooms. Not afraid of new perfume. In fact, my dear, I'm fucking terrified. Okay, that one's just not. Oh, that's why. Okay. I was like, okay, that one's just not getting covered, I guess. It was because of. There was a torch. There was a torch, that was why. I don't know how moss works. I've discovered. I'm confused. None of this really makes sense to me. Yeah. Did 1 block of damage. That's one of the big caves. Come on. Put your boot. Let me attack you. Aggressively. Afraid of new perfume. Oh, you brought your friends over. Isn't that sweet? I hate you. I'm trying to end your suffering with a farming implement. I'm not. Why did you think you needed to gang up on me? It's not exactly the most impressive of feats, is it? We're just moving on. We're just walking away. We'll continue every time we get over there. I've found out you can use healing potions on Ravagers, which I think is very funny. Like, yes, let me go. Like, you're standing beside, like, your friend during a raid, and you're like, okay, I'll use a splash potion of healing, and then the Ravager gets the potion effect. Like, imagine how fucking funny that would be. Oh, this is a lot further in than I... Huh. Okay. Okay. Afraid of empty room. I'm afraid of new perfume. Act my dear, I'm fucking terrified. Oh, what was the conversation that I was having? It was a conversation I was having earlier, and it was funny, and I don't. In Irish class, um, I sit on a table with somebody that went to a Gaeltacht. Not a Gaeltacht, but a Gaelscoil. They're like annoyingly good at Irish sometimes, which is surprising because most people that go to Gaelscoils aren't. They're normally pretty damn bad. But and today we were doing a fill in the blank. Hello out, and they got it done really fast. And because I'm one of their friends, we're like, yes, fill it in, go on, just do it. I know you're bad at this, which was nice. And the teacher was going around and checking things, and after she checked theirs, she's like, okay, and she walked away, and then like a minute later, she was like to another student, somebody's already gotten all of it done. And then everybody went, who? As if there wasn't somebody that went to a Gaelscoil. Irish class when I drew this. That's because, okay, I don't have many stories. What else am I meant to talk about? Like, unless I want to get extreme, I need my sword. Yeah, like, what do you want from me? Yeah, let me just talk about music where we sat in silence basically for almost a fucking hour. Yeah. Yeah, let me make a funny story out of that. Not afraid of new perfume. Like, I don't say the same story 10 times that relationship. Yeah, well, that's different. You're not talking into the ether, though. You're talking to me, and I'm fine with that. This is random people on the internet that are bored and want entertained and will bully me. God, they do that anyway. Not afraid of a new perfume. Yeah, we're making progress. Okay. Yeah, do my excavation for me, bitch. That was useless. Oh, we're gonna have to. Ooh. We're gonna have to, spawn proof all of this. Stories about Irish class are bullying material. Everything's bullying material. We're on the internet. Welcome to the internet. Take a look around. Anything that a brain of yours can think of can be found. The bullies and bullies. Nah. There's slightly more variety to it than that. Not much. Fantasy sport. My nose has been like not bleeding enough to be like bad, but bleeding just enough to be really annoying and itchy when it scabs. So you rub at it and then a scab dislodges and then oh it's bleeding again. Yay! I'm so happy about this. Bullshit. This might not actually help us. I'm not sure because it's like it's so much lower like it'll help us in the we won't have to excavate that huge heart. But we will have to alter the roof. So I want it to be tall. I want it to be tall and imposing. Oh look, a little lake. A little lake. Little lad lake. Yes, I did just call it that. I hate it when it does that. Just like, okay, yeah, you're holding this button down now. Now you got a little bleeding. Ooh, I can't. Oh no! Fucking somebody else was the same, but they get really warm when they get their period. So they were just suffering. I think technically I've had a weird cold for the last week. Okay, I say a weird cold, I mean a normal cold. I mean, I've had a cold. Probably. As far as I'm aware. Unless I've got some unknown disease. Well, it wouldn't be unknown, it would just be unknown to me, wouldn't it? Okay, let me just break that out real quick. Oh, yeah, iron. Oopsies. unfair levels of hell. Oh, genuinely. Like, okay, there's the whole thing that people use where it's like, oh, it's your punishment for Eve taking the apple of knowledge. No, sadness and depression was everybody's punishment for Eve taking the apple of knowledge. Or taking the fucking fruit of knowledge. This has nothing to do with that. The punishment for Eve was having to go through child labor. And the punishment for the rest of us was, oh, you're sad and can die now. Wait, does it not affect replaceable world Fuck. Yes, I know, shut up. Get hot flushes and menopause. That's disgusting. I hate this. God, bodies are bullshit. It's all that, ooh, love your body. I won't love my body when it doesn't function properly or when it tries to kill me every month. Genuinely, I kind of hate February purely because it's 28 days instead of the average 30. For reasons beyond the calendar. Like, you've really thrown off everything. Nothing is accurate. I was just getting into the rhythm of this again after last year. And now you're doing it again, huh? Now you're doing it again. Really? Maybe we'll bump into an axolotl cave. That would be fun. Sorry. Oh, this is so much faster. Anything that brain of yours can think up can be found. No, it means I have 2 in a month. Oh. Ooh. Luckily, it's just far apart enough. Like, it's still a pain. But, yeah. Mine is not quite that shit. Okay. Okay. Or at least mine's not quite that shit this year. It's March so soon, February went pretty quick. Yeah! Like, genuinely. Welcome back, cicada. Sorry, don't know what that noise was. What the f- Don't mind if I do. Oh, it's not a silk touch. That is fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. Bright as you shine. How's your English class going, cicada? Oh, it's fun? Hell yeah. Sorry, I did not read that. And I spoke and I should not have. I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. I love that. I love the meme. I love the fact that that's a haha funny. Great. Holy shit, you're just materializing to- I know! Students are making things so funny. Hell yeah. I don't have an axe on me. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. To be fair, though, I'm throwing some crushed up bones at the ground and making moss. But it's pretty loud. Yeah. Yeah, that happens. Like, hell yeah, this is fun, but also, I can't think. Back to punching a tree, boys. Feeling better now? Hell yeah. Good, good. Hope if I paid attention. Fuck. Oh yeah, Aiden Ross got banned again, didn't he? That's fun. Nobody knows why, which is also fun. Like a competition. Get closest. Those need. Woot, woot. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be talking. Normally I don't shut up. Why? Students are kinda dumb. They always are. It comes with being, student. Just a fact of life. Nice. Gonna be here a second. Sorry, I'm terraforming. Because that's something I have ever done ever before in my life. I know how to do this. Oh, that's the obsidian. Oh, that seems so far away now. No clue. Oh, we have to make sure not to fuck up that. It'll be grand. Probably. I mean, we're really not that far in, though. Like, we're supposed to be making a cave. Currently, we've made an entrance to said cave. Died again. I feel like I should make captions, but you know, like actually. Really, because I know I'm kind of unintelligible sometimes. And the captions I currently have are dog shit. So, yeah. I've been thinking about it. Boom. I don't remember anybody's names. Probably was. I don't remember how my brain works. How? Give me a sec. I'll have a thought in a minute, and it'll be great, and it'll be really funny, and it'll. Good. How are you guys doing? You ever met somebody it actually made you angry? Oh, well, okay. Met in real life? No. On the internet? Genuinely? Yes. That might have to do with my anger issues, though. Is no, actually, my dad. It's not even like overall dumb. It's just these little things that are so infuriating. It's just like how do you not know this? You're supposed to adult. How am I better than you at this? Huh? But yeah, other than that, it's mainly people on the internet. A couple people in school. They're like, oh yeah, Fate is a great guy. Want to genuinely marry people who put them on their things. Okay, so the captions would make Oat happy, is what I'm guessing. There was a while when my dad insisted that Cymraeg wasn't a Celtic language, when it is Welsh. It's a Celtic language. It's a fact. That's what it is. Not the same branch of Celtic, but that doesn't make it not Celtic. And he refused to accept that. Are you greening up the place just to break it back down? Okay. Because you know how I'm digging the moss really fast? Like, just, it's going super speedy. That is why. Because if I were to have tried to mine this far down with my pickaxe, it would have, one, we would have had to leave to like to heal the pickaxe, but also it would have taken like millennia. It would have taken so long. Like, sure, this way we need a lot of bone meal, but we have a lot of bone meal, so. But yeah, that's why. It's to make the process faster. Because, what, this has taken the last like 10 levels. By 1, 2, 5, 6. By about 7. 7 across, 10 levels down. It's taken me probably about 40-50 minutes. The top like 8 levels there probably took me the other hour and a half. 2 hours ish. Wish real people had subtitles. Fair. Genuinely fair. I would. Okay. I wish that you could, like. Like, I wish that teachers would record their lesson. So that you could, like, look back on it later. When you were confused. Being like, what did they say here? What is. Because it's like that's one of the things that I really liked about my maths teacher during lockdown, is that she'd put up a thing and be like, okay, this is how you do it, but she'd also record her going through it. And that was nice. I liked that. But unfortunately, you can't really just ask a teacher to do that, because she only did that because it was her school hours that she was doing it in. Like, you can't really just be like, okay, hi teach, could you record this for me now? Could you do that for me real quick? It's basically so I don't lose my fucking mind. A lot of the colleges do. Yeah. Like, I would love that. I would love it. I would adore that. Like, why don't people do it? Why is it not just common practice? Like, it doesn't even have to be them recording it or having recorded it. Just like one teacher having recorded it and everybody using it until it's a bad video. Or like them finding somebody on YouTube that does it the same way. And being like, hi, so this person's really helpful. If this is the method that we're going to be using for this, if you need a recap, go check out. A maths teacher does that if you ask him. God. I wish my teacher was like, God. Our teacher is, like, she's not a bad teacher. It's just that she expects us to know more maths than we do. And I think that's partially because, we, like, sure, our leaving cert wasn't affected, but our junior cert was. So we don't have as much base knowledge as other years would have, and that kind of frustrates her. Like, you should know these things. I don't want to go over them. You should have gone over them in your junior cert. And we'd just be sitting there being like, well, you see, there was this thing that happened then. We don't have time to go over this. Well, we didn't go over it at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Cannot physically ask people for help. uh, no, I've found out that I sit beside pretty smart people in most of my subjects. I think I'm absorbing it slowly through mitosis. Is it mitosis? I don't know. I don't really care either. But just like, I wish, I hope I am. I hope I am. Except for music. The person I sit beside is fucking stupid. That's another person who angers me with how stupid. Look at this. Look at us go. We're figuring out day by day who enrages me with their lack of brain cells. I really have to make up a story about somebody. Oh? Oh, hello. Good evening. Good evening. Several people have decided that I'm an Eric. I'm not called Eric, but a lot of people that I know have decided that I know or knew have decided that I'm an Eric. That's their call on it. And you know what? I'm not too mad about it. Okay, that's full. So we're gonna go swap this out. Oh, we were almost better at it. Almost. Okay, I don't. There's 400 to 1200. Mitosis, cell osmosis. They're close enough. I mean, 400 words. 400 to 1200 words is a very large range. That's a that's a big that's a big range. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just a lot. Wasn't expecting that. No. We're probably gonna have to come back up for another at some point. But yeah, 400 words isn't. Wait, give me a second. I want to know what 400 words looks like. Just finished Osmosis. It's actually insanely doing very chemistry. I hated it. Yeah, that's not a lot. It's it's like a paragraph. So it's 1 to 4 paragraph. How many pages? What do you mean? How many pages? One bit? Because I fit 1,000 words on a double-sided A4. Okay. Gonna do Animal Crossing. Fair. Fair. We're on plants now. Ooh. Um, words of expertise. It doesn't matter how much you love plants. Never go into botany. My mother did it. She liked the course. Her thesis was good. Just it might be more useful now. It's just there were like no jobs that you could get from it. I'm doing Animal Crossing. Yeah. Oh, hello, Nightbot. But yeah, I may be following in her footsteps in the kind of similar course, usefulness. Fine. Fine. Okay. Look at how speedy it goes. Look at how fast. Oh my god. There you go. That's an owl. Into the depth. But yeah, we'll probably do we're gonna have to make a skeleton. Make a skeleton farm? We'll just have to make an actually working mob farm is what we'll have to make. We'll do that at some point soon, probably. Because we're gonna need a lot of bones. Life. Ah. 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 Cleans up the impossible. How God? How God? How does God? I no, genuinely, I love the argument of like insanely homophobic like Christian, where it's like, oh, God doesn't approve of gay people, and but it's one of the Christians where it's like either God made every person in his idea, or so there. I wasn't planning on it, but thank you. I mean, I'm probably gonna do it. Yeah. I don't know if I shared it too, but I'm doing a graphic design project. Okay, I'm actually so proud. Hell yeah. She said I can do anybody. Good for you. Go on then. But yeah, I love the homophobic people that are like, ooh, yeah, no gays. But then there's the three ways that you can go with it. Either one, like, oh, but God made everybody in his own image. Why would he make somebody that he didn't approve of? Or two, it's like, oh, God knows all. Why would he make some? Why would he let a being exist that he doesn't want to exist? Or three, there's the God forgives all, so therefore no sin is too great. It's that lovely trifecta of having to go to church while in my grandmother's presence. And also, I've found one person recently where I don't really care what their videos are on, but they do long form content. And every now and then I'll just tune in and go, oh, they are doing a religion iceberg. Okay, that's something. You know how jarring that was? It just starts talking about God. Like, wait, what? It was a jump scare. That lovely combination that you against any homophobic Christian or I don't know. It's one of them. I don't know if it's Christian or Catholic or Protestant. I don't know the difference. So because of that, dude, I do now understand why the New Testament was a thing. I was over here being like, well, they just wrote a new Bible. No. They fact checked the Bible. They're like, well, we're pretty sure we can trust these authors. So it's not new stories, it's just a new collaboration. In celebration. Sorry, I'm in my fact spewing moment of time. So therefore, any fact I can get my hands on, oh, not any fact. There are actually quite a lot of facts I don't talk about. Hey! No! Ah! Prick. This is fine. That is not. Okay, so it has like a radius, I guess. I would cover it, but I'll just later. What? We'll like mold the edges in a bit. In a bit, like that. Well, to be fair, do we really need? Well, yes, we make it a little less dead straight. Okay, here's the problem. It's not even that I don't have conversation topics. It's that I have conversation topics, but but they're topics that I'll start crying over. I don't want to do that because that would be just a little awkward. Like, oh, like I've already done a kind of venti thing within the last week about the bad memory. So that's the one for this year over with already. No, there will be at least 8 more. Oh, oh, yeah. I would like to say it's so hard to like. Okay, I've probably talked about this before, but I'm gonna talk about it again. The approaching other people that do this about like, oh hi, you're pretty cool. Want to do a thing at some point or like exchange? That's so hard. It's like it's that weird combination of like it's definitely not as bad as it was like during the pandemic. But it's that thing of one, I'm really awkward. And two, it's like if I approach so I'm very bad about people approaching me, but it's also that whole thing of oh if I approach somebody else they're just gonna start fucking screaming at me. I have issues. It's fun. That fun combination of I yearn for but I cannot. For I am too stupid. I also just don't actually know how well it would go down if I did anything here with somebody. Because like I was really awkward about fucking Bucky. Bucky has been my friend for like years. Not sure how I'd be like, oh, a person I don't know. Wait, there not the fancy Azalea? Oh, there is, it's just not a full thing. Don't actually up all the carpet. Ah! Fuck! Hey, at least they're all here. They're not all. It's fine, it's totally fine. I'll stand to the side as you shine. I'm not fine. I come still at that door. Shine, let all of you shine. Okay, we're gonna make, like, several pickaxes. Not pickaxes. The other thing. Half a pickaxe. Yes. There we go. This is reasonable. That's a reasonable amount. I use enjoying. Wait, where did they end up though? Oh, they're still. No, because they went. There should be, at some point on this track, 4 mine carts and a llama. So I found them. I found them. There's a squid. It's fine. You smug little bitch. Okay, so we're taking the scenic route today with our 8. I really thought this was the best fucking thing. You know what? It just shows that I've improved. I say as I run into a wall. The fact that I think this is now shit shows that I've improved. And you know what? That's a good thing. We haven't gone over the bridge in a while, I guess. I suppose. We're due a visit, aren't we? Yeah, no. There we are, yeah. Wait, there's a furnace minecart somewhere. I feel like we should have done more than just cobblestone because it kind of fades in to the gravel. I guess is kind of what I was going for, but it also just kind of hurts to look at. It's like the nether roof, but worse. Where I don't care. I don't care. It's not my problem anymore. Oh, I've just added another minecart to the. Oh no. I've added another minecart to the total, so there are now 5 empty minecarts. And 3 of I don't know what happened there. There are now 5 empty minecarts and a minecart with a llama in it. This is something. I feel like I fidget too much. I don't know. Just like nobody else ever really stops moving when they're talking because they've had to describe something. Yet here I am, stopping every other fucking minute to go on a tangent because I need to waggle my arms about. Like, like all of your shine. Where? Oh, not that. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's what it was doing. No, it wasn't. Oh, it's just set to that on the. Okay, what's then? No, it's still the wrong thing. No, I want that to be X, and I want this. Yeah, my basically my throw out button is X. Is very jarring when it's not. I'm simply not used. Okay, we'll put. I think we put some of the hose away into the one that we're carrying that in, so that they're always on us, but yeah, further away. Just ever so slightly further. Yeah. Hell yeah. This is gonna be so fucking cool. Oh, alright, so that you can ever so slightly more. So that you can witness things. Oh! Thank you, Wormsaurus, for the follow 34 minutes ago. I appreciate it. I just don't see them very often. Um, that's a little awkward. Just a tiny bit. Just a tad. Just a small bit. I fine. I'm gonna need to get a fucking chat message that plays. But I know that I hate the chat message that plays, but it's also just because I can't see it. I like being able to see it. I hate it when other people do it, but I know why they do it. You know? I get it. That doesn't mean I have to like it though. Go all the way in? No. Go a little bit in. Just a small. Good. You're almost there? Very, very almost there. We are so close to being done on this one segment. We'll return to you shortly after this ad break. Those are fun. Fucking their channel tags. I only know this because somebody hunted down who did the 3-note mnemonic the Disney Channel uses, because it's not attributed to anybody ever anywhere like publicly. And this person wanted to know, so they did a whole video essay on it. It was very entertaining. Very well done as well. It was very cool. I don't know who did it. Names. A bad habit. Bad habit leads to late. Oh, da 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 da. I barely know. Da 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 da. I feel like we should dig through and like put down all the stuff for the actual bridge. Because I feel like this is gonna get very crowded very quickly and might lose track of it. Put string on top of it to make sure that it doesn't get eaten. Or just anything on top of it. Specifically the cobbled deep slate would work fine, I think. That would work. I was about to say that would be fun, but you know, why else would I be doing it? Wouldn't really be doing it for the crack if I was covering my fucking bridge in spider webs. Oh, there's this park, like 5 minutes from my house. That's quite pleasant most of the year. But in October, it is horrific because it's got this little, all of the grass got this little sheet of it, right? It's just got this little almost dewy look throughout the day. You're like, oh, that's fine. It's just dew in the morning, and then it's 3 p.m. and it's still there, and you go, oh, I wonder what it is. And then you look a little closer at the grass, and there are millions of tiny little fucking spiders. I kid you fucking not. There are thousands of the fuckers. They're fucking everywhere. Like, if you sit down on the grass, you basically giving yourself to them. Like, I put myself up as a sacrifice for you, oh spider lords. I really hope that doesn't summon anything. That would be an awkward way to go. You're mocking spiders and then you get eaten by one because you said you were a sacrifice. Nice. Wouldn't that just be delightful? Uh, for the most. But yeah, we'll do like cleanup in a bit and make sure that everything, because this needs to go way that way, basically. Maybe not way that way, but it's going that way. Probably it's the thought. We might not actually go into pit territory with the depth today. Might not. But it'd be funny. But also then we're gonna die so much more. We might not go into pit territory today. May not. I'm gonna replace that with that. I'm gonna eat the chicken, and I'm gonna put the chicken away. Da 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 da. Oh. Wait. Yeah, okay, I just can't count. Fine. Totally fine. Tight as you should. I have decided because okay, so I've for a while wanted, like, known that I've wanted to get tattoos, but I've not known what tattoos I've wanted, because it's a lot for somebody that has my particular caliber of being bad at human. This goes so back as well. Yeah, but like the other week, somebody sent me a meme and was like, we have to get these because it fits a certain thing, and that's now the one I'm getting. It just is now. Like, other than that, there's like one other tattoo that I'm like, yes, I'm going to. But yeah, my decisions are either we're getting them. Yes, yes, we've been over this, Rose. We're getting them. It will be in a couple of months. But yes, we've had this conversation 3 times already. Are you okay? Oh, it's a weird day. You know this because I haven't. I don't remember. Don't worry, I put it in my calendar just to harass you about it. After a certain point, it's in there 3 times. Yes. Yeah, I've decided for tattoos that I'm getting, either the art has to be good or it must hold sentimental value. Those are the only requirements. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, we are. We're getting them. I'll cry if we don't. I might also cry when we're getting them. Because I'm bad with needles. It's not the best idea. It's okay, I'm emotional support for a reason. Hell yeah. You'll just be sitting there getting the tattoo, not blinking a fucking eye, and I'll be in the corner just going, hold my hand, please. And you'll do it. Everybody succumbs to the bad face. Everybody, nobody escapes the Twitch. I might cover the bridge in the cobbled deep slate. It just seems to be a better idea. Nobody's immune to the good times. And hey, now I'll know where it is for future reference. Well. No! Okay, give me a second. Give me a second. Oh. Oh. Question. Do I have to wait for that? I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not. So once I'm finished doing my Irish homework bed, I can immediately fall asleep. There. There. Look at that. Look at it. Wait. Oh, wait. Do I... Okay, no, I don't have one here. Look at it! Question. Where are my rockets? Gonna eat, and then I'm gonna go up that. I'd have it sleep late and alone. Fucking hate you little bitch. Yeah. Would be better if I was better at flying. So fucking cool. Don't worry, the novelty will wear off by the time I'm done. 20, oh, what does 1911-24 mean? Oh, that's the time that it ended at. Okay, that you can't edit. Fine, good to know. Don't worry, I'll stop having made the sounds by the time the yeah, by the time it's done. Fuck. Oh man. Make it less cool. Oh. Fuck. That is 9 blocks high. Fuck. I forgot about this. Don't worry, we'll just go back a lot. And then start from there. Ah, shit. Oh no, you need the entire fucking thing uncovered. Ah, piss off, you right, bitch. Yeah, wow, I can't believe it. Yay. First of all, fuck you, Orag. Why? Why? Why do you do this to me? Why do you do this to me? I made my mistakes, and I made them a couple more times to make sure that they were mistakes, you know. As you do. Oh, I'm fucked. So I'm gonna die in a hole, in a hole, in a hole that I made, in a hole that I found, in a stair that I made, in a cabin that I found, in a hill. Yep. That seems dramatic now that I'm not dying. Okay, okay, I say that and then I immediately pour myself into death once more. I'm getting too used to the face of death. It's become a friend rather than an enemy. Fuck! Shit, bro. Why are you not here? Just run over. Oh! Oh, you heard my call! Oh no, that means the others are on their way. Oh no. No! We dislodged one of the mine carts! They're just never ending. No, continue. Oh, you're the one. You're the problem, sir. We've did. Oh. No! Free me! Fuck you. You are so shit. No! This is my eternal purgatory. Just let me be free. Fuck you. You did this to me. You bastard. Your name is now Phil. Oh, a squid died there. That's what happened there. A squid perished. Damn. God damn, boy. Damn, what do you want? I was having lunch with Microsoft. I wasn't having lunch with Microsoft. Just in case you were confused by that statement, it didn't happen. I did have lunch at Microsoft once. We were doing a coding event, and we got invited down, and then I had lunch there. It was very awkward. I kind of hated. There's a baby. There are 2 children. No. Let me be free. No, leave me alone. I can't even run. I can't run into my home because then you'll just follow me and I'll die. No, I'll do it anyway. Let's see how well you deal with stairs, motherfucker. Oh no. I need to make those corners larger. No, let me sprint down the stairs. I need to stop double tapping W. I got used to it from Blightfall, and now I just do it all the time. It's a pain. In my ass. To be fair, my other option is control. That's their fucking sprint key is control. Oh yeah, somebody who double taps W. Will make you pretty one day. What the fuck? What is there? What? Okay. That was fine. Sure. Okay, we've got that, we've got that. Good, 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 good. It's just fucking everywhere. What is this? An issue. We need an intervention held. Okay, bitch. And now I'm fucking dying again. It's okay, the power of cooked fish will keep you alive. I'd just go, oh yeah, I'm not on fire anymore, it's fine. My object permanence is so bad, but it's not my object permanence, it's my pain permanence. Just like, if I don't feel it in the moment, it's not there. That's what we call health. Definitely. Uh-huh. 100%. That's what we call it. Nothing else. Couldn't be anything else. Ah. God damn, broski. E. No. What are you doing, Esty? Esty, where are you going? Where are you going? Alright. But I'm not talking it. Cause focus. If we do this and overwhelm ourselves with fire, the rain was to pour as I touched your face. Well, it burned and I cried 'cause I heard it screaming at your name. Your name. Sometimes I wake up by the door. The part that haunts me waiting for you. Even now, when we're already over, I can't help myself from looking for you. We're gonna die, die, die. Oh, we're dead, look at that. How could I have predicted that? Abra naramat akat. Well, we've thoroughly declogged the rail system, is basically what I've gotten from this. Not for long, but there's no longer a llama. Which, you know, no llama is a positive in this scenario. In most scenarios, it wouldn't be quite such a positive, but because in this case the llama was being a nuisance, it's quite the positive. I wonder why they don't have the... Oh, how... Wait. What? It's fine. They can multiply on their own. Leave them to it. Why doesn't it have captions for... Oh, we should bring this down. Why doesn't it have captions for when you're on the train, the rail minecart. Why doesn't it do that? I wish to know, I wish to be made aware. Sometimes I wake up at the door of the waiting for you. Even now, when we're already over, I can't help myself from looking for you. I set fire to the rain. It pours out, touch your face. When it fell, well, I cried 'cause I knew that that was the last time. The last time. Oh, oh no. Let it burn. Burn. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Mm. Oh, god damn it. Go into me little hole. We'll go in and we'll be comfortable and warm. We'll be comfortable and warm. Sorry if you can hear my breathing. That is me every day of the week. No! Uh-huh. Ooh. Yeah. Hello. It was me you were looking for. I've returned. I'm back to Electric Boogaloo. Sorry, my mother needed. So I reconnected and then left physically, and now I'm proper back. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? But yes, I've returned. And now we're back to me dying to lava 17 times in a row. Isn't that lovely? Oh. Do I know exactly what I'm gonna do with it? No. Better to have it, isn't it? Oh, there's lava everywhere. Oh, I didn't think this through. Why? Why do you go further up? Okay, forgot the. Oh! Oh, my elytra might just have burned. Oh, my shulker might just have burned. Oh. Not that. Wanna get back, wanna get back. Blow out the candles, or the tables they have turned. That's fucking my other. Ah, now I'm on fire again. Now I'm just on fire again. Discover the can't. Ooh. Ooh, love that. Off, you scallop bitch. No! Fuck off! Tables they have turned.
Athrizio, Athriscakrad. Athrizio, Athrizio, as. Athrizio, Athrizio, as.
Mm. Of course it's moss. What else would it be? Where is my... Oh, I have both of them on. Okay, so I lost the elytra and the shulker box full of all the fucking... It had all of the hose and all of the bone meal in it. Nice. Love that. At the table they've turned. Love that. Best day. Nothing better could have happened. Nothing at all. Nah. How would anything better have happened? Yeah, the main annoying thing is that was all of my bone meal. that was all of it. That was like 9, 10 stacks of bone meal. Lovely. Oh, at the candles, at the tables they've turned. I have to get rid of it now, otherwise I just fucking won't. Oh, my fucking torches are gone as well. Like, you're shit out of luck on that. And fucking do that, I guess. No. Okay. We can't do that. Because we'll die. Isn't that nice? Gone for that one as my light source. Ooh. Sorry for all of the flashing because of the lava going on and off. We'll just pop it in that corner. It won't be great, but it'll be better. Fucking no! That wasn't what I wanted. I have enough moss to last us 17 millennia. Okay. Nice. Yeah, loving this. Having a delightful time. I am ecstatic. I couldn't be happier about this turn of events. They're the best turn of events a man could ever wish for. They can't be better. Yep. I think, for my own mental state, I am going to end here for today. Thank you for being here, whether you've been here for 5 minutes, 50 minutes, or 3 hours, 45 minutes. It really does mean the most. If you're new, if you're not, if you're new and you have enjoyed, maybe consider following. It would mean the world to me. But yeah, thank you if you're just here to be here for a bit. Oh, we could raid somebody. Raid somebody. I feel like we should raid somebody. Um. Oh fuck. Here comes the problem of I don't know enough people. Here's the problem. I had to. That person is not playing Castle Crashers. I was like, I am going to throw you at somebody who is doing insane mode. Castle Crashers. Give me a second. Give it a okay. Give it more than a second. Give it a couple minutes. Give it an hour and it'll get there. Give me. Yeah, thank you for being here. Whether you've been here 5 minutes, 50 minutes, or 3 hours, 45 minutes, it really does mean the world to me. I do this every Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 p.m. GMT. Yeah, I don't always do Minecraft, but I might be doing it more recently. I'm having fun. Well, maybe not for the next little bit. Yeah. Thank you for being here. If you're new, maybe consider following. It means the world to me. But yeah, just have a lovely rest of your day, however long it may be. If you're new, I have a Discord you can get to by exclamation Discord or other things. But yeah, I do hope you've had a lovely time. I have been great, and yeah, have a lovely rest of your day. Bye bye.